Hey everyone, welcome back. Have you ever stopped to think about how important a research paper introduction really is?
I think a lot of people underestimate it.
It's kind of like, the movie trailer for your whole paper.
Ooh, I like that. A movie trailer.
Right. If the trailer's boring, who's going to want to watch the movie?
That's so true. You've got to hook the audience right from the start. And that's exactly what a good introduction does. It makes people excited to dive in and see what you've discovered.
Exactly. So it's more than just like a boring formality or something you rush through, right?
Absolutely. A strong introduction actually serves several key functions. It's not just about stating the topic, there's actually a whole lot more going on.
Okay, so spill the tea. What are these mysterious functions of a research paper intro?
Well, there are actually 6 key functions that a good introduction needs to achieve.
Wow. 6. I don't think I would guess that many.
Yeah, it's more than people realize. And each one is super important in setting the stage for your research.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What's the first one?
First, you're introducing the topic, but you're not just naming it, you're also giving your reader a quick tour of the broader research area, setting the scene.
Okay, so providing some context, like where does this research fit into the bigger picture?
Exactly. Then you move on to explaining the problem that you're addressing.
Right, because every research project starts with a problem that needs solving, a question that needs answering.
Precisely. And you need to show the reader why this problem is important, why they should care about it.
So we're not just exploring this for our own amusement, right?
Mm.
We're showing why it matters, why it's worth investigating.
Absolutely. And then you move on to defining the scope of your study. What are you focusing on specifically, and what aspects are you leaving out?
So setting some boundaries.
Yeah.
Making it clear what's in and what's out.
Exactly. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You state the research problem itself.
Okay, so this is where we get to the heart of the matter.
Right. You're laying out the knowledge gap, the specific question your research is going to answer.
It's like unveiling the mystery, the puzzle we're going to solve.
I love that. And to keep the reader engaged, you need to highlight the significance of your study. Why should anyone care about this research? What potential impact could it have?
So we're showing that this isn't just an intellectual exercise. It has real-world implications. It could actually make a difference.
Exactly. And finally, you present your thesis statement. This is the culmination of everything you've laid out so far.
A big reveal.
Exactly. It's the concise declaration of your paper's main argument.
Wow, I'm seeing how each of these 6 functions builds upon the last one, creating a really powerful and engaging introduction.
That's the goal. Now let's talk about how to actually structure these elements into a compelling narrative.
Okay, because it's one thing to know the pieces, but we need to know how to put them together.
Right. Think of it like building a story. You start broad, and then you gradually narrow your focus, leading the reader to your main point.
Okay, I love that analogy.
So the first step is to set the stage with some general background information. Like the opening scene of a movie. You're introducing the world of your research.
Gotcha. Paint the big picture first.
Then you start narrowing the focus. You zoom in on the specific research problem you're addressing, like a camera lens, getting closer and closer.
Okay, so we're building the suspense, leading the reader towards the core issue.
Exactly. And that leads us to step 3, clearly stating the research problem. This is the moment of truth.
It all comes down to this.
Right. Now, in step 4, you outline your research objectives. What are you trying to achieve with your study? What are the steps you'll take to solve this problem?
Okay, so laying out the roadmap for the reader.
Exactly. Then, step 5 is to explain the significance of your study. Why does it matter? What impact could it have? This is where you really connect with your reader.
It's that so what moment. We're showing why our research has real-world relevance.
Exactly. And finally, you end with your thesis statement, the big reveal.
The culmination of all our hard work.
Precisely. It's the concise statement that captures the entire argument of your paper.
Wow, it's amazing how all these steps build on each other.
It's a carefully choreographed dance.
This is incredibly helpful, but I'm a visual learner. Can you give me a concrete example to really bring these steps to life?
Absolutely. Let's say we're writing a paper about climate change and its impact on smallholder farmers.
Okay, that's a timely and important topic.
For sure. So imagine starting your introduction by talking about climate change as a global challenge. You might mention rising temperatures, changes in weather patterns, and the impact this is having on agriculture around the world. That's your broad background information.
Okay, setting the stage. Everyone understands the general context.
Right. Then you narrow the focus. You could point out that while there's a lot of research on climate change and agriculture in general, there's less focus on the specific challenges faced by smallholder farmers. And even more specifically, those in certain regions, like, say, sub-Saharan Africa.
So we're honing in on a specific group and a specific region.
Exactly. Now, you clearly state your research problem. You might say something like, this study examines the specific challenges faced by smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa due to climate change, focusing on the economic, social, and environmental impacts.
Boom, there it is. We've clearly defined the focus of our research.
Now, you outline your objectives. You might say, this research aims to analyze the impact of climate change on smallholder farming productivity, examine coping strategies, and explore potential policy recommendations.
Laying out the plan.
Next, explain the significance of your study. You might say, understanding the challenges faced by these farmers is crucial for informing both local agricultural practices and broader international climate adaptation policies.
So this research has implications beyond just this one group of farmers. It's connected to larger global issues.
Exactly. And finally, you end with your thesis statement. You might say something like, this paper argues that smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa are disproportionately affected by climate change due to inadequate infrastructure, limited access to resources and technologies, and insufficient government support.
That's a powerful thesis statement.
Yeah.
And I can see how it flows naturally from all the points you made earlier in the introduction.
Exactly. It's all connected.
This has been so helpful. But I'm sure there's even more to learn about crafting a truly captivating introduction.
Oh, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface. There are some fantastic tips and tricks and, of course, common mistakes to avoid so you can make sure your introductions are as strong as possible.
I can't wait to hear more.
Well, that's where we'll pick up in part 2. All right, so now that we've got a good grasp on the structure, let's dive into some tips and tricks that can really elevate your introductions.
Okay, I'm ready for some pro-level advice.
One of the most important things is clarity.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You really want to keep your language clear and concise.
So people don't get lost in the jargon.
Exactly. Use words that everyone can understand, even if they're not an expert in your field.
Like you're explaining it to a friend who has no clue about this stuff.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, sometimes I think we get so used to the academic language that we forget how to speak plainly.
Absolutely. And then another key element is the hook. You want to grab the reader's attention right from the first sentence.
Okay, how do we do that?
Think of it like the opening line of a really good book.
Ooh, something that makes you want to keep reading.
Yes. You could use a thought-provoking question, a surprising statistic, maybe even a short, compelling anecdote.
I see, something to really draw the reader in.
And once you have their attention, you need to stay focused.
No going off on tangents.
Right. Every sentence in your introduction should contribute to your main argument.
Like a little breadcrumb trail leading to your thesis statement.
I love that analogy. And then, of course, there are some common mistakes to avoid.
Ooh, yeah, I'm sure we've all made a few of these.
One of the biggest ones is revealing your thesis statement too early.
Okay, yeah, don't give away the ending right at the beginning.
Right. Remember, you're building suspense.
Taking the reader on a journey.
Exactly. Another common mistake is being vague about the research problem.
So you need to be very clear about the gap in knowledge you're addressing.
Exactly. What's the specific question you're trying to answer?
Don't leave the reader guessing.
And make sure to avoid broad generalizations or unsupported claims.
Everything needs to be backed up by evidence.
Precisely. And don't forget to cite your sources properly.
Right. Give credit where credit is due.
It all comes down to building credibility with your reader.
I'm taking notes here. Clarity, a compelling hook, staying focused, avoiding common pitfalls. This is great.
And one final tip I would add is to read other research paper introductions in your field.
Oh, yeah. Learn from the best.
Pay attention to how they structure their arguments, what kinds of hooks they use.
It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how the pros do it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with different approaches.
So read for inspiration, try different things, and see what works best.
That's the key, finding your own voice while still following the basic principles.
This has been incredibly helpful. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the art of writing a good introduction.
I'm glad to hear that. It really is an art, and it can make a big difference in how your research is received.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to hear more about the nuances of crafting a truly captivating intro.
That's exactly where we'll pick up in part 3.
Okay, we're back, ready to wrap up our exploration of the mighty research paper introduction.
Phew, we've covered a lot of ground, huh?
We have. We've talked about those 6 key functions, the step-by-step structure, and even got some expert tips on how to make our introductions really shine.
And of course, we can't forget about those common mistakes to avoid.
Yeah, gotta watch out for those pitfalls.
I think it's worth saying again just how important that introduction is to the success of your whole paper.
It's true. Like, it's the first thing your reader sees.
Exactly. It's the first impression you make, and it can really determine whether someone wants to keep reading or not.
Makes sense. You want to grab their attention and make them excited about what you have to say.
Absolutely. And a well-crafted intro can really help you stand out from the crowd, you know?
It's like in a sea of research papers, yours is the one with a sparkling introduction that catches the eye.
I like that. A sparkling introduction, I'm going to use that. And it's not just about grabbing attention, it's also about setting the tone for your whole paper.
Right. It's like giving your reader a sneak peek of what's to come.
Precisely. It shows that you have a clear understanding of your research and that you've put a lot of thought into how you're going to present it.
It's like building a bridge between your research and the reader's mind.
Ooh, that's a good one, a bridge. And it's a bridge that needs to be strong and inviting, you know?
Yeah, you don't want your reader to fall through the cracks.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to spend the time and effort to craft an introduction that is both informative and engaging.
Not just a dry recitation of facts, but something that draws the reader in and makes them want to learn more.
Right. And I think a good way to do that is to think of your introduction as telling a story.
Ooh, a story. I like
A
that.
story about your research, its significance, and the impact it could have.
And that story starts with a captivating introduction.
Exactly. So as you embark on your next research project, take all of these insights with you.
Remember the key functions, follow the structure, and use all the tips and tricks we've talked about.
And don't be afraid to experiment and revise.
Yeah, play around with it until you find an introduction that really sings.
Because when you create an introduction that you're truly proud of, it's like setting the stage for a really impactful paper.
This has been an awesome deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about crafting introductions.
I'm glad to hear it. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
I'm sure they do. So to everyone listening, go forth and write those amazing introductions.
Your research deserves to be heard, and a strong intro is the key to making that happen.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's it for this episode, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep writing.